afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast news bit here. And as you can see, we're in a slightly different area, not on Communist 2, but in fact on the internet. Because today we recently received the actually screenshots of the entire survey, and the fellow who sent it actually uploaded all to Imgur, so that makes it all a lot bloody easier for me. So I might as well just go through these questions, at least the ones that matter individually, and allow you to see them as well, so we can all partake in the survey and, you know, just sort of give my thoughts, feedback, and so on there. And, you know, in case Relic sees this, they can consider this my survey submission, despite me never actually sending me the survey either. Twerps. So, off we go here. On Imgur. Or whatever, the internet, the great big net of things. So we got here the first bit there, tell us what you want. Pretty starts there, complimentary piece of Communist 2 DLC. Probably nothing big. I mean, certainly nothing unique. And the future of company is part 1-3. Oh, there's 3 parts. How would you describe yourself? Well, fan of both games, obviously, though more fan of Communist 2 since snipers aren't quite as bad then. Brits aren't as bad there either, so bigger fan. But still a real fan of them both, obviously. Which keywords immediately come to mind when you think of a Company of Heroes game? Good RTS, Stugs, Deutschland, tactics, flanking, infantry. So many words really come to mind. They're really squads, actually. Human elements, fun. Yeah, a lot of words, but overall nothing big here. This is just sort of to gauge, you know, the overall idea there. You know, the person who's sitting in there, just to see how big of a fan are they, what do they think of it. And similarly here, you know, how likely would you rent it for a friend or colleague? Obviously, I'd recommend it to everybody because it's Company Heroes. It's the best thing ever. What are the following features motivate you to buy one of the company's games? Select all that apply. Oh, good lord. Like, that was ages ago why I bought in the first place. It was like, it was a Relic game back then, primarily. But squad-based combat, more or less the entire thing there. I sort of, if I remember correctly, it was really a long time ago. I remember it was actually around Christmas time. I remember asking it for Christmas when I wasn't that old. Didn't get it because it had a Company of Dawn of War bundle with it, and my brother apparently back then when my mum was buying the gift said, well, we already got that one, so I didn't get it, so I had to go out and buy it myself. And then I sort of played it, but that was, you know, reasonably fun. I only played initially though for the campaign there, not so much the multiplayer. That came much later on. But you purchase, definitely, unless it's set in a, you know, area I really don't like, say the Pacific overall, the East there, I'm not such a big fan of that. Would probably diminish my interest in it. But about it. How often do you use mods? Rarely, and that was only Company's one for skin mods to better infantry and tank, you know. So that's it. And we don't have infantry skin mods in Companies 2 to, you know, improve the grenadiers. There's not really much there. How much are the important are the following single player campaign features to you? You can sort of see that. Linear scripted missions, dynamic, non-linear, cinematic moments. That's of course the one there. They don't really have any sort of detail. Cinematic moments, what do they mean? What does cinematic moments mean, Relic? Right, I mean, it could be a lot of things. I mean, you know, it might as well just, you know, be strong elements. In that sense, you know, it's just more fits in with your linear scripted missions, whereas they're talking about, you know, the cinematics themselves, in which case, you know, Companies 1 had some great ones, you know, with the whole sort of drawn style there. So, this is sort of pretty vague, and honestly, they could have done without that one because it really has nothing there. Sandbox style missions, character-driven story. I mean, again, the Companies 1 campaigns were overall pretty damn good, even the shorter ones. For Tales of Valor. In that regard, I'd probably just sort of rate these two high. Though again, the Ardennes campaign did have some fun elements, but you know, not being able to play the Germans and some other moments, and plus there was a lot of repetitiveness there. So it was sort of the weaker ones, so not really huge. Then similar sandbox style missions. I mean, they could be done well. They'd be good, but it's just you know, just a skirmish mission. It's not very fun, but it's like a really well crafted mission. They're great. So that's sort of also, you know, a trickier one there, but those can be really, really good. So there's which art style do I like? Now this is another sort of curious one because honestly, in a sense, the art style between the two isn't exactly hugely different. It's more like the colouring that's different. They're sort of really like Companies 1 has slightly more muted colours, if you will, and it's less sort of in some ways more greyish, where this one's sort of reddish, brownish. And overall sort of art style, though there's not exactly a huge difference. Sort of both aiming for the, in quotation marks, realistic. You know, it's, you know, what you see is what you get. It's not like, you know, sort of like huge differences, like say between Dawn of War 1, Dawn of War 2, and Dawn of War 3. There's not like a huge clash in art style between the 3 different games from Companies 1, Companies 2. It's very much sort of, you know, following up. They're more like, you know, say terms of voice acting, although that's a huge difference, or music. I mean, Christ, the music in Companies 1 is so much better than in Companies 2. That's, you know, for example, one big difference. In particular, the British soundtrack is still one of the best things ever. So, this, I mean, I can see, I suppose, what they're angling at. The problem is there's just not a huge style difference there. I mean, it's largely the same style, but it's just, you know, Western and Eastern Front, in a sense, and even in Western Front, I mean, it's not different. It's just like slightly color grading, and, you know, there's some shininess on the tanks in Companies 1, there isn't in Companies 2. So it's a bit hard to say if there's really sort of difference in art style, at least to me. It's a bit of there, sort of further, yeah, but, you know, bit hard to say there. And there we go. Now we sort of get to the more interesting bits, like top 3 new features. Like, what have we got here? Morale mechanics. Now that one's a really interesting one. They could probably easily go on about this for several minutes, but like morale mechanics. And of course, I've actually discussed this with some of the Relic developers at times. They talk about, you know, well, suppression is the morale mechanic. And the thing is, well, sort of, but there's like a lot more depth you can add there. And I mean, my thoughts would sort of be, you know, like you have the suppression, and then sort of have morale as sort of a feature, like almost like health, that sort of then determines the unit's combat performance. Like there'll be sort of a stable sort of morale level, then it can dive or it can climb. Like if you sort of get up more morale, you usually do that by, you know, killing stuff without suffering big losses, doing, you know, really cool, neat. That way you're sort of more, you know, shall we say, reward good tactics rather than just, you know, bunching of troops and sort of blobbing ahead of the enemy. In fact, blobbing could then be sort of added, you know, something that, you know, can sort of maybe give you an illusion of a morale boost, but then can also very quickly shatter it if things very quickly go wrong. Then, you know, units that perform well will move faster, maybe they'll reload faster, and then maybe, you know, they can unlock special abilities when, like, they, you know, they hit the uber morale boost. Like maybe, you know, some units will, you know, toss about grenades and the likes, or they'll do some other cool stuff. And of course, more infantry just has a more higher morale level, and of course they're harder to just, you know, get demoralized. Then what happens when they're demoralized? Well, they'll move slower in enemy territory, they'll even walk. And then at some point, you know, if they just hit the complete bottom, they might just retreat on their own. That way you can also, for example, differentiate stuff between Osttruppen right up to Panzergrenadiers and Storms. So that way there'll also be more ways of it. That way you can say a player that can actually spam. They can be reasonably combat effective, but he has to manage the morale a lot more intelligently. Otherwise things very quickly fall apart. So that could be, you know, a very neat way of doing things. Similarly, you could even add morale to tanks. I mean, and that's also a thing that was great about Companies with that, you know, it looks at the human element, which most RTS games, you know, tend to forget. They just take a look at the tanks and figure, alright, RTS games are about tanks. But again, Companies, you know, add in the infantry element, you made it vital. And that's also the human element with suppression and the likes. So further adding a human element to the tanks, you know, could do the same. You know, a tank with poor morale might not retreat, but, you know, it's going to, you know, close in, button down, less line of sight, maybe even slower rate of fire. Like the crew is scared, it doesn't want to go about this. You're going to have to, you know, support it more with infantry to keep it close. That's a tank with great morale, you know, all crew, you know, eyes ahead, better range, maybe, you know, they can sort of take more advantage of it, so they can shoot farther, more accurately. Again, they sort of got much better, clearer idea of things. They might even move faster, and of course that way can use them more aggressively. I mean, it's still a great idea to have infantry, but, you know, it's not necessarily. What of course might, you know, decrease their morale besides losses. It could also be just being hit with a lot of Panzerfaust. That way, Panzerfaust and other anti-infantry weapons, you know, because tank crews are terrified of those, could be a way of just also cooling down tanks as well. So in that regard, you know, it would add a lot more stuff there. So really, I think a morale system could be one of the things that could just add a huge new dimension to Companies 3 if done well. More cooperative modes, yeah, could be neat, but it's not like, you know, something that's huge for me. Customizable key bindings, flair. Deck building multiplayer mode, I mean, my overall thought would be, you know, something more like you actually build a company, like you have a skeleton, and then you sort of, you know, like add in sort of the core info. That could be Fallschirmjäger, Volksgrenadiers, Grenadiers, Panzergrenadiers, Stormtroopers, and you can sort of switch out certain armored units. That way you sort of have like companies, and that way in theory they could also just, you know, add more stuff in more easily. They can, you know, make sort of more special elite divisions, like, you know, say a Panzerlehr company, you know, then you can maybe get like certain bonuses or whatever, but then it might also be more locked down where you can't really sort of change so much, you can't customize it as much. So I think that's sort of been an interesting bit there. Dynamic non-linear campaign, I'd rather prefer, you know, proper stuff. I mean, if you can sort of, you know, manage to marry, you know, a good dynamic campaign with the stuff of the Companies 1 campaigns, sure. Streaming casting features, great for me, but, you know, you still have to sell the game itself. So in that regard, again, I overall prioritize morale mechanics over anything like, you know, a lot of these other things. Anti-toxicity features, neat. Fictional non-historical units, then why are you doing a company whose game if you're going to do that? I mean, that's really the big question. If you're going to do it, do it. But then again, if you're not going to do it, you know what? Bother. I mean, again, try as much to stick to the history. Or once again, you're begging the question, why are we doing it in the first place? Why are we setting in a World War II if it's something going to have a lot of non-World War II stuff in it? You know, gotta be sensible here. Advanced tutorials, I'd recommend that, in particular stuff you can help get people into smoke and light. So that's one of the big complaints about companies 1 or 2 actually, that and it's an incredibly bare bones tutorial and that's it. Like, you know, they have a lot of cool features, new features, and there's just absolutely no way to teach them this is how you smoke, this is how smoke works. I mean, you should probably just have an entire tutorial just on smoke, so more people can just get into it right away. And that's probably some of the bigger mistakes I think of companies too. Just the tutorials were really bare bones. Advanced in-game chat options, fair again. Morale mechanics, advanced tutorials really sort of, I think, the priorities here for me. The rest is sort of, I mean, a lot of it just really doesn't add a lot to the core game, which is really what, you know, be concerned with me. I mean, a lot of them is just, you know, things that make the rest of the game great if the core works. So they're more like gravy, but for, you know, gravy to be good, you need meat and potatoes. And morale mechanics and advanced tutorials definitely meat and potatoes. Need more of that. Maybe deck building, multiplayer, but maybe. But again, I'd overall prefer more the sort of company system. Down here, how to solve the following campaign features to you. Campaign replayability, pretty good. Historical accuracy. Obviously, I mean, we don't need to go full because those become tricky, but you know, I mean, it should have been within it, you know. There shouldn't be any like complete, you know, out of the blue, where did that come from sort of stuff. I mean, obviously, again, it's fully historical accuracy. You might not, you know, be able to do anything in a sense, but you know, as accurate as possible. Rewriting history, let's not go there. I mean, I doubt that you're gonna have Germany winning the war anyways. Try doing that in 2017, 18, or 19. Good lord. Playing the campaign with any faction available, great. Yeah, that's also one of the big mistakes. Not mistakes, but one of the things I always missed in companies too. German campaigns. Like, they always made pretty good German campaigns, to be honest. Story-driven campaign, obviously. Dynamic, less so. I mean, again, you know, some of these can be a bit, you know, vague and such. So, who knows? He's putting his arms, obviously blurt them out. Very nice of him. You can tell why, and of course, can't explain there how to solve a new multiplayer mode where we can create a custom army with a possible mix of allied and next units to change the battle. I mean, basically, very undecided. I mean, aesthetically, again, you know, the whole sort of sense of World War II, this doesn't add up. You know, again, yeah, it's no fun for me at least. You know, it doesn't really add to the World War II fantasy, you know. So for me, it's just, you know, fair. Really just, yeah. I mean, again, at most they can sort out, like, you know, captured armoured units, but again, go sort of like doctrinal stuff. And again, the Germans made a lot of use of it. And sadly, they never added in companies too, you know, a Beutepanzer company or doctrine there. I mean, again, that would actually been pretty cool, and they could easily been done. Hell, they can still easily do it. They just reskin some Allied tanks, add them to the Germans, and there you go. New doctrines. I mean, that's easily done comparatively, obviously, from my perspective. I'm not a programmer or anything like that, but I figure, you know, reskinning some tanks, you know, adding in some bits there would be within sort of the realm of Relic's possibilities, even with the AoE 4 sort of being the main priority. But again, they require some tactic go there, but, you know, likely they won't. Even if the season make them go, that's actually a pretty good idea, but still, Age of Empires 4 takes priority. And theatres of war, World War I, a lot of World War II theatres, modern warfare, and NA, North America. No, World War I, not particularly interested. I mean, overall, my interests are basically the Western Front, Eastern Front, and the Mediterranean. I mean, Pacific theatre. No, absolutely, I have zero interest in that, to be honest. Modern warfare, I have very limited interest in it. It could be interesting. The problem is, after World War II, most sort of army doctrines converge a lot more, at least in terms of the equipment and uses, so it sort of becomes a lot more the same, which sort of, you know, kills the interest for me. Alternate history could be cool, you know, Company of Wolfenstein, Company of Madmen. I've sort of discussed that idea before, but, you know, would prefer sort of real World War II. But, you know, I mean, compared to Modern Warfare, World War I, the Pacific, I mean, I definitely take alternate history, you know, again, you know, sort of like a World War II gone nuts, so, you know, maybe sort of a Cold War into World War III sort of situation where the Third Reich never got defeated. I mean, that could be pretty cool. So there we go. Please rank your top 3 armies from the list below. Germans, number 1. Germans, number 2. Germans, number 3. Though, sort of the funny thing is, again, Americans, French, British, Italians, Japanese. A lot of these, you know, sort of more SOT armies, like the Australians, the Canadians, more SOT armies of the British army, since they ran a lot on the same lines. The Polish, partly either Soviet or British, again, sort of depending on the time period. In early war, they were sort of their own thing. The Nordics, again, sort of either under British Allied lines, and again, even then, that's not exactly more full forces. In fact, it was closer to the German army, that's sort of part of that. Belgium and Netherlands, similarly, again, are the Allies or the Germans. So, and the Soviet Union, of course, was its own thing. The Japanese, no, because again, that means the Pacific. Italians could be cool in a sense, though again, they're rather tricky to be done, and which, unless it's like North Africa, require some German equipment to back them up with. But it could be done, it could be done. So that's at least my perspective there. How many armies would you expect to see at launch if there was to be a new company's game? I mean, obviously, expect me. Again, that's sort of, you know, the interesting expect. Like, how many do they realistically expect? How many do you know sort of unrealistically expect? Because unrealistically, I'd say 4 because, you know, I want as much as possible. Again, I'm greedy. Realistically, I'm expecting 2 because it also allows me to focus more. And that's also basically how the previous 2 companies' games have worked. So, you know, that's kind of it. I mean, they go for the company system in particular, in which case, again, maybe 3. I mean, that way they could sort of just stick more to like a certain several of, you know, templates, and that we can sort of form up more stuff within the armies, you know, not have to think about making, you know, unique niches for the armies in that way. So, I mean, that could be an idea. But, you know, there you go. How many multiplayer maps would you expect to launch if there's been a company's game? Holy crud. I guess as many as possible. I mean, I'm definitely expecting more than 1 map. Like, imagine that one. Alright, guys. You get 1 map for 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3, 4 versus 4. We have absolutely no idea how that's supposed to work. So, obviously, there have to be at least, you know, a bunch of maps. I mean, there's no way around that. It's going to be as many maps as possible because, like, otherwise, there's just going to be not enough for all people. So, that's pretty much a, you know, you need as much as possible, to be honest. As much as possible. Please rank your top 3 existing features. Well, pathfinding could be definitely done. Vehicle tank combat could also be improved upon. You know, sidearm is one of the things people want with. You know, tanks run along on infantry, infantry run along on tanks. More cooperation between the two. Stuff like that. You just make the tanks sort of more tanky. Building garrisoning, that one actually one a huge deal for me because currently, yes, you know, get stuck in and there's not much to do. There really needs to be more actually happening around when the building gets garrisoned. There needs to be more to do with it, but also more options of clearing it out because it tends to, you know, leave, you know, again, a great need for flamethrowers. So there needs to be some way of, you know, not necessarily always having to require a flamethrower. Again, I actually made a video about that, but just having infantry to be able to storm buildings, I think, would do a huge deal there. A better unit veterancy system wouldn't be a bad idea either. I mean, all of these things are, you know, kind of all things that could be improved upon, to be honest. But building garrisoning, unit pathfinding, and vehicular tank combat, I think, are sort of the 3 primary ones that sort of look into there personally. But again, a lot of them are also pretty good, you know. Base defense building could be more done there. Unit veterancy, online event and seasonal activities would be pretty cool. Observe mode and replay options would also be pretty neat. You know, a lot of things there. Weather and atmospheric systems could be also, you know, a nice sort of, you know, flavour thing, but, you know, not more beyond that. Whilst likely that the purchase the following content, that almost sounds like, you know, trying to gauge for more Companies 2 DLC. And obviously, new armies, definitely purchase. Commanders into bulletins, I'd probably purchase that, cosmetic items. If I like them, yes. If not, not. I mean, that's a bit more, you know, much more sort of taste. New game modes. That to really depend on the game modes and the new units. Again, it really depends on the system and the content. I mean, again, if like they're asking me, hey Dane, would you like Panzer 3s for Companies 2 now? I'd say yes, I'd buy them on the spot because, you know, I want something new in Companies 2. I mean, really, again, if they're asking me if I want to purchase new stuff for Companies 2 now, I'd say hell's yes, in particular if you add some bloody infantry skins so my grenadiers don't like a complete bunch of clowns. Obviously, for Companies 3, it really depends on how Companies 3 is looking. But again, I'd definitely purchase the other ones. New units is a lot more... really depends on what type of units we're looking at, then how the system and how they'll be implemented. That one's sort of a lot tricky. I mean, I could be on board with it, but I'd be much more on board with it. It's like they're asking again, do you want Panzer 3s in Companies 2? In which case the answer is hell's yes. Same to the answer question, do you want Flak 88s in Companies 2? Hell's yes. Do you want, I don't know, veteran grenadiers? Hell's yes. You know, like that. What other games besides Company currently playing? None of those, that's for sure. I'm playing Shadowverse, which is a card game. That's basically it. But also I'm playing the Stick of Truth at the moment. But I'm not playing any of those. So that's pretty much out. Which are the following cooperative games that I've played? Diablo 3, but not cooperatively. I played Left 4 Dead. Portal 2, I have not played cooperatively. Don't Stop Together, no. Overcooked, never played. Borderlands, I played the first one uncooperatively. Really boring game, absolutely just a grind. Destiny, never. And what if anything? I'm not really huge on cooperative as such. I mean, Left 4 Dead was probably the sort of more interesting one, to be honest, because you know it was sort of very dynamic, interesting, you know, sort of very fun in that sense. And more questions about you, obviously. Again, this is not so much about the games, I mean, it's not really much here. I mean, you know, I play games that are companies that are fun, that challenge me, that allows me to, you know, do my stuff in the game. I don't have to play very, very specifically and uniquely because that's boring. You know, after you're playing the campaign with the games, depends. I mean, I've played the Companies 1 campaigns really a lot of times. The Companies 2 campaigns, not very much. Warcraft 3, I also played for a ton of times. So, I mean, it really depends on the quality of the game and the story they tell. You know, I really would play them a lot. Other times, you know, won't bother because it's not very good and not very interesting besides one playthrough. I actually haven't played a single one of those. No. Because it's not me. And of course, you're free, Relic, to contact me. You know, you're very free to contact me, Relic. Though you never do. So there we go. A bit of a longer video, but again, there's so much here I think sort of cover on this survey. I mean, this is right, you know, say a meaty survey with a lot of bits. And of course, also my thoughts and, you know, feedback in case Relic does stumble upon the video and sort of go, maybe we should have asked Dana if after all. Of course, they have, in a sense. So there you go. The survey here with my thoughts on, and of course, what you can sort of maybe expect down the road from Relic. I mean, there's certainly a lot of things they're exploring, but more importantly, what's very important is they're not going the Dawn Wolfie way, which is just, you know, well, let's just try some random stuff out and see how that works. I'm sure that will work out amazingly, and as it turned out, it didn't, which I predicted, by the way. Like, days after they actually showed anything off the game. Yeah, I pretty much did. I called it a year ahead. So there you go. But there you go. Survey up. And again, big thanks to X-Ray Mind here for providing the bits there. And of course, a big thanks to all my patron support who do provide, you know, data support here so I can actually keep doing this on a daily basis. So big thanks to you. And of course, a big thanks to all you my viewers. Hope you enjoyed this video and the survey. Got some ideas there as to what maybe to expect. And of course, if you'd like to subscribe, like, share, comment. And of course, spread the word. And if you know, like what I do consider supporting by Patreon or just donating. Links in the video description. This is Imperial Links, cheers and see you all. Bye.